What's Fox News talking about? While Trump's fucking getting indicted? Suck it or go. Thank you for the 20.
Trump has been indicted by a grand jury in New York. Trump was under investigation by the DA's office for his alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign. So as we await more information, Fox News has just learned this from two law enforcement sources that Trump has been indicted. Perhaps I can go around the table.
What
Katie,
the
I'll start with
fuck?
you first.
What
the
fuck?
president said 2 weeks ago that this was going to happen eventually.
Oh,
That would
shit.
happen, last Tuesday, the grand jury then did not.
I gotta put a
convene for 2
fucking
days
suit
in a row.
on.
And the grand jury was out of town allegedly for a month as of yesterday. So this is quite interesting to hear after they were sent
Oh,
home
yeah,
for
baby.
for the month. Now, leading up to this, there was a lot of talk about whether this would even happen, considering Alvin Bragg, who is the Manhattan district attorney who is looking into bringing these charges, would be able to, just given how long it's been since this incident, and it was allegedly a misdemeanor charge. It's never been happened in the history of the New York Attorney's Office before, and there's been a lot of controversy about whether it was appropriate given the president is a presidential candidate again, and whether it was politically motivated.
Now, does this mean he's going to jail? No, but does this mean it's kind of funny and we're going to have fun with it? Absolutely.
Questions about the district attorney's priorities.
They're so fucking mad, bro. They're mad they got debated by the they're mad they got debated by the grand jury.
Carrying out very violent crimes in the city behind bars.
Hold on, I'll be back in a second.
Now he is focused on President Trump. But here we are with this. The president said it was going to happen. So now there are big questions about how this will go down, whether the president will come to New York to be fingerprinted, to take the charges in person, and what that will look like with Secret Service and NYPD, and whether there will be a mugshot and how that will be handled.
I think that's important to ask at this point, Jesse. We don't exactly know how this will go down, but we do know that the indictment would not be announced until it was stamped. The DA's office would then notify an attorney for the former president that he would then be indicted. At that point, the president is then free to make the information public himself. We are reporting this as we've learned it from two law enforcement officials. We'll see if we hear anything from the former president as the moments go on here. Will he be arrested? Would there be any sort of mugshot taken? Will he appear in court? Those are questions that we do not have answers to at this moment.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And I feel bad for the guy. He didn't even really have to be president. He had a lot of money. He had a great life. And he decided to run. He won. He got in. They took him down. And now they're trying to nickel and dime him for a private agreement he made with a woman, 8 years ago? It has nothing to do with politics. Wasn't paid through campaign funds. This is a disgrace. And I think it takes about a week to get the logistics in, so he'll come up and he will get fingerprinted, and they'll get a mugshot. And then they'll plaster that mugshot all over the country for the next 2 years and run against a criminal. And that's what this is all about. No one wanted this. Not even the left wanted this. But now I'm thinking Bragg got embarrassed, because everything you heard over the last 48 hours is they were just going to put this to bed and take a break for a month. So I don't know if there's pressure put on him, because his numbers went up in the last couple weeks when this thing swirled. So maybe the left's calculating that indicting this guy is going to get him the nomination, and they think he's easier to beat. But I wouldn't be so sure about that, because there's going to be a major rally around the flag feeling. I'm starting to feel it right now. I'm angry about it. I don't like it. The country's not going to stand for it. And people better be careful. And that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
This is the third act of the movie, right? It really is. This is how it has to be. This guarantees his nomination. Alvin Bragg is the MAGA Republican of the Year. He just got Trump's nomination. I think if there's a mugshot, which there will be, you got to own it. That's got to be the poster. That's got to be. He is an OG, right? If they give me, I mean, he is a badass. If he's got a mugshot, you might as well go right into it. And the thing is, his poll numbers have gone up with this. I just think this is going to make sure he is going to be on the ticket. And to your point, they made that gamble in 2016. They thought that he would lose to Hillary, and he didn't. So I don't know if they really think that this is good, like the Joy Behar logic, which is like, oh, he'll be easy to beat.
Just one factual point. It's being reported that it's a felony indictment, and I was saying earlier that they were looking at it as a misdemeanor, and that's why much of the criticism was about that issue. There was talk that Alvin Bragg, as the Manhattan District Attorney, would try to make it a felony, to make it a more serious charge. And now, of course, he's going to have to prove this because he's the one who's taking the information from the grand jury, and he will have to then explain why, beyond a reasonable doubt, he thinks that the charges will stick.
Jessica?
He did. He was bumping it up because it was seen as something to help Donald Trump's campaign, because this all happened a couple of weeks before the election. So it clearly was something that he didn't want to come out and inform the results of the 2016 election. I'm completely shocked by this. When Trump said, I'm going to be indicted on Tuesday, I thought, okay, maybe it's not Tuesday, but this is coming.
I haven't tied a tie in so long.
They weren't meeting on their normal days. And then the letter that Alvin Bragg sent back in response to...
But I guess you never forget.
And said, basically, this is all
the only tie I own. I got it from my dad.
About an indictment. No one out of New York is talking about it.
Many years ago.
Due to the fact that there was a lot of pressure on him from liberals. I talked about it on air, saying that of all of the myriad of things that Donald Trump is under investigation for, this is not the one where you're going to be able to rally people around to say, yeah, this is unequivocally a thing that he did wrong. It was going to be what happened in Georgia, with pressuring officials there to overturn the 2020
Bro, this is crazy.
election.
I can't believe it.
Which there is no evidence, but go ahead.
What, phone calls saying, find me 11
What's your definition of find? Like, do you find something that you have to create, or do you find something that's already there?
Well, they weren't there, and it had been certified and
like,
examined and certified again.
Find me a good masseuse. I don't say create a new masseuse. Find me a masseuse.
You don't think that the tour of Donald Trump and all of his lawyers throughout the country trying to get the results overturned in states like Arizona and Pennsylvania and Georgia?
Georgia. I was just responding to Georgia.
Okay. So anyway.
Georgia was on your mind.
Always. The mugshot will definitely be part of this. I mean, Donald Trump was up. The Fox News poll that just came up, he's up 30 points in this. He was going to be the nominee anyway. I mean, I was even talking about, should Ron DeSantis run this time around? He's young. Wait until Trump is out of the picture if you're going to do this. But it certainly seems like he would be the nominee.
This is a moment in American history that people will remember. This is a political Rubicon that has been crossed. Yeah. It will certainly change the GOP primary, but it will also change precedent. And Democrats talk a lot about precedent. Well, they just set one with this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And by the way, since this is white collar, we obviously have our camera outside the DA's office here in New York. The DA's office has to now ask Trump's attorney when he plans to come to New York to be arraigned. It doesn't require him to turn himself in, so there's no specific time frame. It could be any minute now. It could be any day, but we'll see.
Well, you can zoom it in, but they won't let him zoom it in because they want the spectacle.
He wants it too, though.
He doesn't want to be indicted. If you think he wants this, he doesn't want it. The family doesn't want it.
Fuck.
Imagine being Barron Trump. Hey, Dad, what are you looking at? It's not good. And it's horrible that Alvin Bragg, who's a joke in this town, who should get run out of town because crime's running wild, is going after this. If you get a haircut a couple weeks before an election and you pay for it out of your own pocket, not campaign funds, how is that a campaign finance felony? You were going to get a haircut anyway. You wanted to look good anyway. Just like he would have paid off this woman anyway,
you think
whether he was running for president or not.
Is the same as getting a touch-up on your hair?
Yeah, dude, come on, dude. Come on, it's just like a masseuse or a haircut.
For Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill, the Fox has spoken with one senior aide and one source close to the House inquiry of Manhattan DA.
The only funny part about this is that, like, it is literally the lowest offense that you could get him on. Like, it's just the lowest offense that you could get him on, which is like campaign finance law mismanagement, which has happened regularly and routinely. Other people have had to pay basically just like a small fine, but I'm still going to enjoy it. I don't give a fuck.
Out of the race if you're indicted. And he said, absolutely not. He predicted then and said it would probably help my numbers. Now, as this has been brewing and we've been waiting on some potential action by the Manhattan DA, we have seen him climb in the polls. Our own polls show that he's added several points to his lead among GOP primary voters over the last few weeks while we knew this was percolating. A lot of folks will say this is baked in. So now we wait to see what happens. I do think the president, I think Jesse's right, nobody wants to be indicted, but I do think this president is very good, the former president, at making the best of whatever circumstances come his way. And I think he knows that if people see him in handcuffs, being dragged around, it lends to his argument that the establishment is against him, the deep state is against him. So not a positive, but I think that he knows how to turn it into one as best possible. So now we will wait to see what happens. As you all mentioned, we've got Georgia. We had the foreperson in that grand jury out there talking about the fact that she was estimating or predicting several indictments. We've got the ongoing federal investigations, 2 different probes within the Justice Department. So listen, there is nothing illegally that stops a president or anyone who has been indicted from running for the White House, even if convicted. That's not going to stop him either. So I don't expect his campaign to slow down. In the lead, at least, if anything, I expect it would rev up. But we're all waiting to see documents to get more information. That may take a while. We'll figure out when the arraignment's going to be. But for now, after what seemed like a pause, after some interesting testimony from attorney Robert Costello, who said there are emails you haven't seen to the grand jury, there's more to the story about Michael Cohen, and caution from the left and the right that Michael Cohen may not be the best witness to build this case around, they've moved forward. So an indictment is one thing, a conviction is something totally different.
It's a felony charge for what is otherwise considered a misdemeanor in almost every single circumstance. It's only sister's wedding, Trump indicted. Absolutely, dude. Abso-fucking-lutely. So the interesting component here is literally that, well, one, there's a couple different things we got to talk about. Number one, Donald Trump has done a fuckload of crimes. I believe, according to the Office of Ethics or the Citizens for Ethics Foundation, 53 crimes that he has committed since he's been in office, right? Or leading up to him running for the presidency. So he's done a lot of crimes. That much is clear. This is probably one of the lower versions of that, like in the lowest of low rungs, because of the nature of the crime itself. It is technically considered in other circumstances a misdemeanor, and for it to be a felony, you need to show intent, and also you need to be able to prove that this was done with prior knowledge that it would be illegal. As far as I understand, you would have to literally also show that you did it specifically to save your campaign. Like, there are a lot of different components here that make this such a weird thing to indict Trump over. But, like, it's still funny. You know what I mean? It's still very funny. Does that make sense? Like, that's why I'm
Gowdy
cherishing
is joining us now as well, former South Carolina congressman and host of Sunday Night in America. Trey, jump on in here to the news, and what are your thoughts?
Well, it's a surprise, but quite candidly, we're not supposed to know what grand juries are doing. Ideally, this has been an exception. My position has not changed. I think it is the weakest of the 4 investigations. It's the wrong prosecutor, which you alluded to. It's the wrong fact pattern. You got statute of limitations issues. It's really a misdemeanor that put on a suit, and they want it to look like a felony. And I just look, when our justice system becomes a political tool, then we are on thin ice as a republic, and I think we are increasingly heading in that direction.
Trey, did Democrats just indict a former president over sex? Because we were told during the 90s that it was just
There
sex.
ain't no way. There ain't no fucking way, dude.
And it had nothing to do with politics,
Yes!
and nothing to do with policy. Weren't we told that?
Yes!
And you have to understand, he says he didn't have sex with this woman. She had her hand out saying, hey, I'm not going to say anything unless you pay me. So either it's a consensual sexual encounter or it's a shakedown. And Democrats want to make that a felony?
I don't understand. Why would it be a fucking shakedown? It's literally just how they have explained the situation. That's what it is.
No longer going to prosecute prostitution was on that list. So it can't be about sex. It is the falsification of a business record, which, look, I'm not in favor of. You shouldn't do it. It's a misdemeanor.
But come on, come on, let him have this. Like that's Fox News defense is literally just come on, let him have it. Yeah, it's a little bit of crime.
Federal election law violation. The U.S. attorney's already taken a pass on this case. So again, I'm not speaking for the other jurisdictions that have the former president under investigation. I've always thought special counsel was factually the one where he was in the most peril. I don't know why you wouldn't go with your strongest case. And I can tell you right now, Jack Smith probably is not happy about it either, because prosecutors always go with your strongest factual and legal case. This ain't that.
Trey, this is Greg. How you doing?
Hello, Greg.
I miss you. Anyway, everybody always says, "Oh, nobody is above the law. No one's above the law." It's so trite, but it feels like no one should be below the law either, and it feels like Trump has been made to be below the law. You don't have to meet any standards.
Yeah, it's so fucked up, dude. If there's one thing, Trump, if there's one thing that's happened to Trump, he's been prosecuted too much. That's what I'm always thinking. That's what I'm always saying. One funny fact about Trump is that they prosecute him too much. They over-prosecute him.
The law. So there are plenty of examples on both sides of our justice system being weaponized. So I would think that this would be something that we universally rejected, but unfortunately, if it's done to our opponents, we like it, and if it's done to our friends, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's significant is because, former presidents have gotten in trouble, or presidents have gotten in trouble with the law before. Like, there's that famous horse speed ticket. I forget who it was, but there have been instances like this, right? No, I'm not even talking about Nixon. No, I'm not. No, it never. Yeah, it was Grant, right? Obviously, former presidents have violated the law routinely, both during their tenure or even before their tenure. Like George W. Bush was drunk driving, got caught, but that was before he ever became president. So did Dick Cheney, by the way, but that's besides the point. Anyway, but that kind of stuff is whatever. Grant was speeding with a horse. That's why he got a couple speeding tickets with a horse. But never in the history of the United States of America have you ever had a former president get indicted for something. Even Richard Nixon didn't get it. So that's why this is unique.
Left have criticized the effort. This is a patently political prosecution, writes Jonathan Turley. A lot of reaction, obviously, pouring in from both sides of the aisle at this moment. The White House has been asked for comment. When asked, do you have comment? We don't. I believe that was the direct quote. So the White House is not weighing in this moment.
Yeah, why would they weigh in? Are you kidding me? Yeah, we do not comment on matters, so you can call us out as blatantly moving the needle on an active, ongoing fucking indictment. Yeah, no shit. You know who shouldn't be speaking out on this, and yet he has? Donald Trump. Donald Trump regularly engaged in jury tampering by routinely fucking talking about the indictment before it happened. That is actually another fucking law-abiding moment for Donald Trump. Someone with that level of power and influence should not be able to just leak information that he was supposed to not be privy to because of some of the witnesses that were brought into the grand jury, in front of the grand jury, and then openly stating that it's fucked up. Not illegal to talk about an indictment? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying it's illegal to talk about an indictment. I'm saying that you could absolutely consider it to be jury tampering if you get information about an indictment that you are not privy to because some of your former lawyers or people connected to your former lawyers have access to information that the public is not privy to, and then you publicly blast the fucking jury on the timeline, you publicly blast the people and try to motivate a potential insurrection in an effort to stop this from happening. He literally said, go out into the fucking streets, get out to the streets, and go out and protest this shit. Okay? That in and of itself is in my opinion, definitely, this is so libbed up. I mean, yeah, for the record, I don't think anything's going to happen. I just want you to understand, I am an incredibly cynical person. I'm just simply reacting to the news and laughing about it. But that does not mean that I think that he has a serious shot at being fucking arrested and going to jail or anything like that. Do not misunderstand me. This is simply for entertainment.
issue. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the attorney general's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times.
And you believe it should happen?
I believe we have to hold them accountable.
You know, Andy Biggs just put out a note saying this is Trump derangement syndrome. It's infiltrated our judicial system. If they can come for him, they can come for anyone.
I don't like when people have been saying that a lot the last few weeks. They can come from you if you do the same thing that he did. It's not like he was just walking down the street.
Stop it, Jessica. No one's going after some random dude that settles an extortion case with a woman. Come on. It's because he's running for president.
Alvin Bragg had backed down from that position because it wasn't even popular within the ranks.
He
right?
was waiting for the timing to be right. And this was the timing.
I guess that it was.
Yes, technically his Secret Service would have to go into jail.
How heavy this feels
alongside
and
Trump.
There are very few moments. I mean, I'm
which
no
is pretty
fan
awesome.
Of the former president, and I'm not saying that he didn't commit a crime, but I am really struck by how powerful
Jesse
it feels
Waters
right
is
now
freaking pissed. He's in this mode.
Going to be 100% a note in every single history book that is going to come after this about what has gone on, and that has nothing to do with.
That's why Bragg did it.
I mean, it's pretty awesome, and it's pretty funny. Like, here's a thing that these fucking dipshits would say, regardless of the material conditions of whoever the perpetrator of any particular crime is, regardless of the low-level offenses that they might be serving a fucking life sentence for, these fucking dickheads in suits would sit there and go, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. But when it comes down to like one of the most powerful motherfuckers on the planet, who literally was the most powerful motherfucker on the planet until he lost an election because Joe Brandon stole it from him, they're like, dude, we need to do prison abolition. Our prisons should be obsolete, right? Like a bunch of Angela Davises. You never would have thought. You never would have seen it. You love to see it. You hate to see it. Doesn't matter. They're like, it is really fucked up that the criminal justice system is so gross and the carceral state is so inhumane. It's like, the fuck do you mean, man? What do you mean? It is for the fucking working poor. For once, we should have a little bit of fun. We should have a little bit of fun at the expense of like an actually powerful person who's done a tremendously shitty job as president. And not only that, but like will receive just a fraction of the outcomes. I wish that this was not done over the hush money for Stormy Daniels. I wish this was done over the RICO charges, the RICO case that's being developed for the past fucking however many years now with Fani Willis. She should be worrying more about her RICO case on Donald Trump for election tampering, which is a very valid case, instead of, trying to make sure that like everyone who's ever rapped under Young Thug's record label goes to prison permanently. Okay? How about you work on this shit instead? I wish it was over that. I wish this indictment was actually over that RICO case, because that RICO case is actually a valid one, a legitimate one, a genuine, like that one is actually genuine. That one is actually a viable and valid RICO charge that he could be hit with, because he actually did do something that is criminal. And he should go to jail over it. This one, he's just going to get a fucking light pad. He's going to get a tap. He's not even going to get a slap on the wrist. He's going to get a little bit of this on the wrist, okay? Maximum, he pays like a fine or some shit. It'd be really funny if they perp walked him for that.
Didn't think this was the best case that they had, but we are where we are, and this is unprecedented territory.
Katie?
Brett, you mentioned the political implications of this, and you go through the list of prosecutors on the federal level who decided not to bring these charges. Just generally speaking, at a time when the country is in a place of distrust of institutions, the political lines have been drawn, it's a very intense political environment. How do you see this moving?
I love the Associated Press using this photo. That's deliberate. You know what I'm saying? They're pulling the Andrew Tate on him with these photos. They're perp walking him like he's Andrew Tate. Are they gonna like shave his head too and not let him, and then make it grow out unevenly and shit? What the fuck? He's gonna be in jail for one night and have his pants hemmed and the sleeves cut off his sweats and have a snack stash like the kids at camp on heavyweights. Oh yeah. Also, he's rich. He doesn't
think that.
Here's the thing: rich people Rich people don't go to jail like fucking poor people do, okay? He goes to jail or he goes to the fucking courts on his own time. So remember that. Rich people also don't see the top of the hour ad break. That's just how it fucking works. Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
This is almost like 2016 where he just commands all the free media. You know what I mean? And everybody laughed about it. They like Morning Joe and CNN thought that they were just going to, amplify him so he'll lose. And it didn't turn out that way.
Do I think that Trump getting perp walked is going to benefit him? Absolutely. He's going to look like a bad bitch. But guess what? Ultimately, that's more content. Do you understand? There's nothing I can do about it. And I'm just analyzing it. I'm just laughing at it. Do you understand? And that's what your perspective on the matter should be. Do not take this super seriously. Do not act like this is going to end him or anything like that. We don't know. It's not very likely either. Virtual Meal, Darkest Fortune, and Cam Schron, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
Sobering and unprecedented development. But if justice demanded that Michael Cohen go to jail for a scheme directed by someone else, justice also requires that the person responsible for directing the scheme must answer for their offenses against the law, and that person is Donald Trump.
True.
Also, just a little bit of color, as you can see, the live shot of the Manhattan DA's office there. We have a reporter on the scene who's describing helicopters already hovering overhead. Several court officers are outside lining up. There's some tension building there. They are saying that Bragg is still in that office right now, as his car is still and parked somewhere around there. So far, none of the Trump lawyers have specifically weighed into Fox on this case at the moment. Jessica, want to jump in there?
I don't care what Adam Schiff has to say. That guy is a total basket case and is responsible for the unjust political
Susie
persecution
3
of
Sheep,
this
thank you for the 5 gifted subs. My food is here. I got to go grab her real quick.
Tried to charge a bodega owner with attempted murder for defending himself. A guy broke into his shop. Luckily, he had a knife and he ended up defending himself. Bragg wanted to throw that man in prison. Bragg lets felons go rape women in this city. It is a disgusting scene at the DA's office. And that man better show up to the cameras and start answering questions about what judgments he made here. And I hope the House Republicans haul his little butt back to Capitol Hill and answer. And so he answers.
Damn, he said he's
to the
fat.
American people about what he's doing here. This cannot stand. I actually agree with Jessica. This doesn't feel right. Something feels terrible.
GOP candidate Vivek Ramaswamy just weighed in, saying very similarly, it will undermine public trust in our electoral system and justice system. He says it's un-American for the ruling party to use police power to arrest.
Dude, you know what's really... Yeah, you know what undermines American trust in the electoral system? Constantly lying about voter fraud to a degree, or constantly lying about how the voter fraud actually ended up stealing the elections and then doing a fucking insurrection that was a failure overall over it. That literally undermines elections. That does. It fucks your side over so hard that like Republicans literally were like, why the fuck am I voting for this shit? It genuinely depresses voter turnout when they feel like the deep state pedophile Democrats are fucking controlling elections.
History. Fox News has learned from 2 law enforcement sources that a grand jury in New York City has indicted former President Donald Trump. This is the first former president or sitting president to face criminal charges. The precise charges not currently known, but the case is focused on a hush money payment to a porn actress during his 2016
That's the funniest part, that they have
campaign.
to reveal the details every
This is a
single
moment
time.
that will shake up the 2024 race, but again, is historic. We've never seen anything like this before. Let's get the latest now from senior correspondent Laura Engel, live in New York. Good evening, Laura.
Good evening, Brett. And as you can see there, our cameras are downtown at that courthouse. Fox News can confirm that a Manhattan grand jury has voted to indict former President Donald Trump, as you mentioned, the first former U.S. president to be charged criminally. The 23 grand...
I'm not going to lie. This is going to fire up the schizo base a little bit, I think. Like, do I think this is something that the regular Republicans give a shit about all that much? Maybe not. A lot of them are in a holding pattern, voters, I mean, where they're just like looking to see what happens in the primaries, right? But the schizo base is like, oh my God. Like, I can see them trying to blow up the courthouse or some shit. I hope that that doesn't happen, but.
Mom, I want a vape. Mom, I want a vape.
Illegal. You go to jail for that because of Trump.
During a rally in Waco Saturday, Trump, who is again running for president, claimed he's under investigation for something that is not a crime, not a misdemeanor, not an affair. The felony indictment is under seal, and we expect to get more details on the charges in the coming days. Trump's attorneys will likely negotiate with the district attorney some sort of plan to have the former president surrender and be arraigned in downtown Manhattan. A lawyer for Trump told us that she doesn't know when he would surrender. Now, Trump is also facing 3 other criminal investigations, including efforts to overturn the 2020 election, keeping classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, and the January 6th Capitol riot. We will bring you more as we get it here in New York. Brett.
Okay, Laura, thank you. Let's go to Fox News chief legal correspondent and anchor of Fox News Sunday, Shannon Bream. Good evening, Shannon. Just moments ago, Eric Trump relaying that this was a third world prosecutorial misconduct, reacting to the word of the indictment. It is shocking, and it is not something that I think people expected at 5:28 on Thursday after what we've been seeing in recent days.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is the first of its kind. This is the first time in history we are indicting a former president. So we are in totally new territory here. And Alvin Bragg has been warned by people right, center, and left that they are worried that what he's done with this case is going to look like nothing but political maneuvering when it comes time to actually get a conviction. An indictment is one thing, a conviction is another. You heard the former president talk about this in Waco. He says there's a new tool in the bag against me. It is prosecutorial discretion. Nobody wants to be indicted, but he is certainly.
Let's take a look at what Trump had to say about this.
Unusual situation that's taking place. And again, legal scholars can't believe what they're witnessing. And yet, after going over 11 million pages of documents, I built a great company. They've got nothing. They've got nothing. Think of it. 11 million pages. And my tax returns on top of it, and they're a big return. It probably makes me the most innocent man in the history of our country. Friends of mine say that. You will be vindicated.
Not my enemies, just friends of mine. They say that, believe me.
Works. It'll be up to New York jurors now.
All right, Shannon, stand by if you would. Let's bring in George Washington University Law School professor Jonathan Turley. Jonathan, I heard some reaction from you. It is quite something to see this moment, and it's really historic, this moment that we're facing.
It is. It's historic. It's not necessarily good history that is being made. It's not that I oppose the indictment of a former president. I don't even oppose the indictment of a sitting president on constitutional basis. But this indictment is reportedly following the theory that we've been talking about, is political. It's a raw political prosecution. Now, the indictment may come out with a crime that none of us have heard of, but for many months, this bootstrapping theory has been put out there. This idea that you could take a misdemeanor under New York law that has expired, that has a 2-year statute of limitations, and revive it.
I love the expiration on it. Because, like, you literally couldn't fucking indict him because he was a sitting president. Like, what do you mean? You can't, what the fuck?
Bragg's own predecessor declined to prosecute.
Yeah, they tried to do it while he was the president. You were like, you can't fucking indict a sitting president. Shut the fuck up.
Into a state case. And if that is the basis for the indictment, I think it's rather outrageous. I think it's legally pathetic.
Looking live at Mar-a-Lago,
legally
Palm
pathetic.
Beach residence for the former president. I want to read just a paragraph from the New York Times. documenting of this in this story. It says on Thursday, the 3 lead prosecutors on the Trump investigation walked into the building where the grand jury was sitting in the minutes before the panel was scheduled to meet at 2 p.m. One of them carried a copy of the penal law with Post-it notes visible, which was likely used to read the criminal statutes to the grand jurors before they voted. About 3 hours later, the prosecutors walked into the court clerk's office through a back door to begin the process of filing the indictment. As you rightly point out, Jonathan, the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York chose not to go down this road with this case. The Federal Election Commission chose not to go down this road with this case.
I can't wait for them to like use incredible like legal, like absolutely insane fucking legal counters here to, instead of like addressing the facts of the matter, they're going to say stuff like, well, how could a grand jury ever not be tarnished? Because it's the president and he was a very polarizing figure. A jury of his peers? Well, Trump is unmatchable. He is the greatest superhero of all time. There is no peer. But you know what I mean? They should throw this grand jury indictment in the trash because, again, you cannot have a peer. You cannot have anyone be unbiased against our Lord and Savior Donald Trump. Shit like that. They're going to do it, and it's going to be really fun to watch, in my opinion.
John Edwards, arguing that hush money paid to another woman who bore a child out of that relationship.
Oh, yeah, John Edwards
was in fact a campaign.
That one is legit.
Violation. That was a much stronger case, but they lost. And the reason they lost,
he's right about this.
Even if you can bootstrap that dead misdemeanor into something alive, you're essentially arguing a federal case that the Department of Justice declined. But it's also a case that requires you to show, if that is the basis of this indictment, that Trump's his sole motive for paying this money or having third parties pay it was for the election.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem from Edwards. There's a host of reasons why
he can say he did this.
Married individual would want to.
He can say this, that he paid the hush money for not just like this campaign, but actually he paid the hush money to protect himself.
Negotiation that's going to happen
to protect his marriage.
The dealing with the Secret Service, the fingerprinting, the photograph. We've been through kind of speculation about this. But one last thing on the legal case. You talked about how this is new as far as its construct. And judges would have to evaluate that not only first on the case itself, but then if you got to a conviction on an appeal that could last for a very long time. Meantime, there are other federal cases that perhaps are stronger if you are really going after the former president. The federal case in Georgia about election interference, and not to mention the special counsel and the January 6th investigation.
Yeah, and look, Bragg is.
If I was Trump, I'd be pissed if Fox News keeps saying that, by the way. I'd be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Why do you keep telling him that there are better cases out there?
Theory, which is the only one that's been discussed publicly, that is unprecedented. And I expect that New York judges will have.
What's unprecedented is that you can have a president. You can have a president with like better cases elsewhere, both at the DOJ level or at another state. That's unprecedented. It's wild that we're like, well, you know, if you really wanted to throw him in jail, you could have used the Georgia one. Or the January 6th committee. It's like, what? Like, how unhinged are we as a fucking nation that the former president has better cases that you can use to throw him in jail than the current one that just indicted him? And no one sits around and goes, that's kind of fucked up. That's weird, bro.
Committee, and he says that this is, quote,
it's true,
outrageous.
By the way. It is true. Those guys on Fox News are saying truthful things right now.
We've also heard from Andy Biggs, Republican from Arizona, somebody who has been a staunch defender of the former president. He says that this is Trump derangement syndrome. Meantime, on the other side of the aisle, you have Pete Aguilar. He's the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, and he says it's long overdue for the American people to see him be held accountable. Let's bring him to justice. Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, says that this indictment doesn't pass the smell test. And then Adam Schiff, the former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, also he was the lead impeachment manager during the first impeachment trial. He says that this is deeply and fundamentally necessary to preserve the rule of law.